More parents are taking a different path when it comes to education, and it's more than a fad. School choice programs are seeing growing support across the country, a trend in American education for the past few decades. School choice advocacy group EdChoice reports over 1 million students participated in school choice programs in 2024. Straight Arrow News spoke with Rachel Brady, a North Carolina mother who uses her state's program to enroll her children in private school. She tells us she loves the program, but it hasn't always been easy.
So our oldest was kind of grandfathered in, and he received it again for third grade, but our second child was waitlisted because the funding ran out in Tier 1.
With tuition payments due, Brady and several other families started worrying if their children would be removed from the wait list before school enrollment started. In an effort to help their children, they went to the state capitol. After several rallies and meetings with lawmakers, Brady and the other mothers got what they wanted, a bill that allocated state money to get the nearly 55,000 students off the wait list. Unfortunately for some, it was too late.
Many families either couldn't afford it or had made a different choice for their children, and so the action by the legislature really was too late for them, and that was really unfortunate timing. But we are thankful that they did take the action and set the precedent for future years. So there is funding available now for families to apply for the scholarship program.
Nearly every state has some form of school choice programs. On May 3rd, Texas became the latest state to expand options. Straight Arrow News reached out to Governor Greg Abbott for comment. Abbott's office said this is an unprecedented victory for families, students, and the future of our great state. Now, with historic school choice combined with record public education funding, Texas is on track to lead the nation in education. Despite the uptick in interest of school choice, Brady says she's still worried they may not get the funding they need.
I am a little nervous. I'm hopeful that the funding will still be there. It's harder to get into the program than to stay into the program because once you're in it, then you're a renewal, and so you are first served. But as a new applicant, you enter in with everyone else, and so I am a little bit nervous.
But what about results? School choice advocates like EdChoice say these students do better in class, with some studies to back up their claims. The results varied by state. Florida and Arizona both saw positive results, including higher graduation rates and higher college enrollment. A report done by the Urban Institute shows students on Florida's tax credit scholarship are more likely to attend and graduate from college than their peers. According to the Cascade Policy Institute, more than 36 studies over the last 2 decades confirm voucher programs increase student performance even at public schools due to competition with private schools. Brady says her children do better with these programs. She admits every student is different, and sometimes the traditional public school system won't work for every student.
And one thing we're seeing in today's world is that every child is really different. And I feel like that's becoming a mainstream idea. It used to be a fringe idea, but now it's becoming more mainstream, that kids are just wired differently. Not everybody learns the same way. And what works for one child is not going to work for another.
But critics of the program cite other studies showing the opposite. Hillary Webbing, an economist with the Economic Policy Institute, which gets support from 2 national teachers unions that oppose school choice programs, doesn't think public education should be viewed as a product that needs competition.
This is wrong on several fronts. The most obvious is that public schooling is not a good the way grocery store items are good. When we think of where market competition works, that is often in terms of buying goods and services. Education, we rightly mandate every child in the United States gets educated. It is actually one of the reasons why the US in the 20th century kind of pulled away from all of its peer countries as one of the leaders, because we were one of the first countries to mandate public education.
A study from the University of Arkansas shows Louisiana's scholarship program has a statistically significant negative impact on students' English and math scores.
The 4 states that I've seen really credible peer-reviewed studies, that's Indiana, Ohio, Louisiana, and Washington, D.C., all have done high-quality peer-reviewed studies that have been published in academic journals, and they all show an educational attainment loss for students who are transitioning into private schools using these voucher programs. both in math and in language arts.
Advocates like Nathan Sanders from EdChoice say the negative test results in Louisiana were due to unnecessary state regulations and not underperforming schools.
And that wasn't necessarily because these schools were bad or not teaching, right? It was just because there were so many sort of the regulatory structure of the program, and there were so many barriers that these schools were having to jump through that it just took some time for these schools to get adjusted, whether that was for testing, whether that was enrollment, admissions, things like that.
But where do parents stand? According to a study by EdChoice, 69% of parents who had children enrolled in public school said they were either very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with their child's education. Nearly 80% of parents who have their children enrolled in private schools said the same. More than 30% of public school parents reported being somewhat dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with their children's education, while 21% of private school parents said the same. Brady said she is one of those happy parents.
I think the biggest change was more for me, honestly. I needed support from a school. I love homeschooling. It's a wonderful way of teaching children. I think it's extremely good for kids. It can be challenging for the parent, and so it was more of a lifestyle decision for our family to provide some support for me.
But not all parents are happy with the programs.
In Milwaukee, where vouchers have been studied extensively, in part because they've existed since 1990, we saw that at least for the students that went into these voucher programs, 20% left each year to return to public school because they weren't satisfied with the quality of education they were getting in these voucher schools.
Funding plays a big role in performance between states. Florida, for example, has increased investment in its school choice program while also increasing its education budget as a whole. This has made the state's ESA program more robust, according to advocates. They also say the increase in spending and competition in private schools also led to improvements in public schools. Other states that didn't have the resources to innovate with public schools saw a decline in performance due to the program. States that had comprehensive legislation that included clear guidelines, accountability, and support for participating schools tended to have better outcomes. Indiana's program, for example, has an income eligibility structure that makes sure lower-income families have access to schools that might otherwise be unreachable. North Carolina's universal voucher program is open to all families, but higher-income households receive less money from the state to pay for private schools.
The way that the funding is even put forward is very well protected. The way that you apply, there's income screening to make sure that those who need it most are being served first. And then as parents, you never have access to it. It's done directly from the state to the school. And so it's protected, it's guarded, and it's handled extremely well from a management standpoint and making sure that the funding is handled very ethically.
However, some school choice advocates like EdChoice don't agree with the restrictions.
Back to Milton Friedman's vision, we want a competitive market with lots of schools and lots of options for families. And if you add these burdensome regulations that don't necessarily mean better results for kids, then you're only going to sort of bottleneck the market and have schools, not all schools, participate.
As the debate over using state funds for private education continues, families like Brady's say these programs make a big difference, and without them, a quality education would be out of reach.
The school that we're at is wonderful, and I have a lot of personal interaction with the teachers. And I do remember a time I was working through a homework problem with my son, and my child's teacher got on Marco Polo, and she shared with me how to solve a particularly difficult word problem, and I felt very supported, very helped, and was like, this is the right place for us. This is great individualized help for my child.
For Straight Arrow News, I'm Kaylee Carey. To catch part 1 of this story or other education-based stories, head to san.com or download the Straight Arrow News mobile app today.